So hello YouTube, my name is Brad Harper. I am one third of Design Truth. I'm an industrial design recruiter that sits in between two designers in Drew Kendrick and Emma Williams. You'll certainly hear from them shortly. We started this podcast at the back end of April, and for some reason our informal beer after work style has been listened to over 1,000 times. So we thought, why not just chuck it on YouTube? Morna Gamblin, an industrial designer from Toronto, has started this 7 questions design challenge. So if you are a keen enthusiast of ID content on here, then I'm sure you would have seen many different contributions from many different content creators. At the time, we were oddly enough already interviewing the two creative directors at Design Partners, truly a world-class design organisation. So we thought, why not just combine the two and give you guys an extract from an upcoming episode and give these guys the same 7 questions. We've got no video here. We never hit record on video. But if you do want to see what us horrible three actually look like, then just go to www.designtruth.co.uk or our Instagram, which is We Speak Design Truth. You often see our faces on there. Hope you agree that Drew really does have the best hair in industrial design. Sit back, enjoy, although we do recommend you perhaps putting us on in the background whilst you do some CAD or something. If you like what we're doing, just hit that subscribe button. As I say, this is YouTube, so you probably know all that already. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the conversation. I just wanted to wrap this up with something I've stolen, which is the 7 question challenge, which is effectively something I've stolen from a designer over in Canada. So I will say her name. It's Morna Gamblin, and she's done this thing where she's given these 7 questions, and they've gone out to the design YouTubers and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's as a pillar to kind of promote industrial design. But I thought, whilst we've got you guys on, I'll ask those same questions to you two, and it's something we might do.
These will just be yes, no answers, I guess.
They're fairly simple questions.
What's
What's the meaning of life?
Yes.
What is art? No. So if I start this off, industrial design is a fairly uncommon field. How did you discover it?
I have to credit, I had a guidance counsellor when I was in secondary school, and I think I had something like physiotherapy on my first list of what I might go and do in college, because I was hugely into sport. But I was in this conflict between, engineering I had second, and then I had this conversation with the guidance counsellor, who said, but I thought you were really good at art. Why is that not on the list? I was like, I honestly, I don't know. I think I'd enjoy doing any of them. And then she said, there's this course I've heard of. And she just goes into her filing cabinet and pulls out industrial design that I'd never heard of. And she said, go look into this. And I went and visited the studio in the National College of Art and Design here in Dublin. I was just blown away by these kind of incredible experiments that were happening around the studio. And all of the students I spoke to seemed to really love it. And that's how I was introduced to it.
And the rest is history. Cathal, what about yourself? What was the?
No, it's similar to Cormac. I had a love of art and engineering in school. I'd never heard of industrial design, but I had a fantastic art teacher called Andy Lennox. Actually, I should give him a shout out. He's absolutely life-changing for me, actually. So he pointed me in the direction of industrial design, and I knew he wanted me really to do something in art. And I worked with ceramics for a while. I think I'm probably more naturally a sculptor than a designer. That's kind of my own kind of bent. But I always had this engineering love as well. And the combination, when I found out about industrial design, it was just like, oh yeah, this is for me. Yeah.
I remember, Drew, you've always said it's your calling.
Yeah, I didn't know that straight away. Like I say, I've said this before, so I'll make it short. But all of my uncles and my dad and all of his friends all worked shifts in local factories and all hated it, and lived for the 2 weeks a year where they could go to Spain and have a few days off for Christmas. Other than that, they just hated it. And then an older cousin was a graphic designer, and he was cool and had a Nova SR, and everyone just thought, it's like, he's cool, he's talented, he draws pictures for a living. That's amazing. So I was like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll take that. If those are the options, I'll take that. And then I saw a show on BBC Two that, completely unbeknownst to me, these two guys sort of travelled around Britain just drawing things, drawing bins and motorbikes and all this cool stuff. I was like, that's just stuff in your house where you can just draw it and someone makes it. Yeah, oh, go on, I'll do that then. Just figure that out. So then, that turned out to be, I forget what it's called. It was like designs on your something, designs on your ... And that was Seymour Powell. Not Seymour Duncan, the guitar pickups, Seymour Powell. And then, I found out a couple of books of theirs, and seeing the sketches, just like I need to learn how to draw like that. That's awesome. It's just so exciting. And then figured out what GCSEs I needed to do my A-levels, to do a degree. So, it happened when I was 14, and then I've been stuck with it ever since.
No going back now.
Yeah. I was actually quite surprised that part of my education, I went to the Politecnico di Milano in Italy, and how common industrial design was, in the rest of Europe, where it was, explaining industrial design to anyone when I was in as a student would just go way over their heads. You really had to break it down. But that was an amazing experience for me, because design was such an open conversation over in Italy as well. And even how it was taught was more of an open discussion. You'd have two lecturers in the room who were practitioners of design, and they would encourage opinion and conversation. So it wasn't like, here's what you're going to do, here's how it's done. And it was much more of, okay, what do you guys think? And getting the class to actually develop their thoughts. And that was hugely influential for me. And a few of them kind of took me under their wing, and I got a lot out of that year, just understanding what it means to form strong point of views.
That comes up nicely to question 2, which is, how do you explain your job to those that don't know about industrial design? Is it a tough question with family members, and they ask you, how was work today, and you try and explain it to them, and it just goes straight over their head?
I think for my parents, the first time they understood or really understood what we did was when we did work for Waterford Crystal in Ireland, because it was something they could really relate to. It was like a brand they knew, and oh yes, of course, those are designed because they're beautiful objects. And in many ways that makes sense. That it's like, it's an object, it's something I know, and they must be designed. And that was the easiest kind of understanding of what I did, or when the first time family understood or could relate to what I was doing. But yeah, it's not easy to explain, especially when you go off on tangents around strategy and purpose and meaning and all this. And you've lost them. They've gone to make tea in the kitchen or something.
I like it when my parents or my dad once said to me, we were talking about lunch boxes and Tupperware and stuff, and he was like, "Yeah, we don't need to design that." Well, how's it made? Like, how do you know how to make it before you have it in your hand? Well, they just have them from where, Dad? And it's not saying things. No. You're right. Some things need designing, like a car, but other things, they just out of nowhere. Well, no, someone has to draw the boring things too.
So what inspirations have developed your style?
I don't know. I mean, Cathal might be able to tell if I have a style or not, but I think in design partners, because we work with so many different brands, what we really try and do is put the brand stamp on it and collaborate with them.
More bespoke rather than one set kind of.
Yeah, but I think we're more of an approach than a style. I think we really humanize technology. I think that's fundamental. We talk a lot about where human meets technology and kind of bridging that, and making sure the experiences we create just fit into people's lives. And I think that's more of an approach than it is a style.
Yeah, and I think personally as well that I'm not actually that interested in say design feeding inspiration, but personally I've always found other things more inspirational. Like, it could be movies or art or something I'd read, or a magazine article, or something somebody would say, trying to find little nuggets of inspiration that would just feed a full strategy on a product. So like, for instance, like when I think about design direction, I often think about a quote that came from the Coen brothers, who everybody loves Coen brothers movies, but when they describe what it is to be a director on a movie, they talk about the role of a director is to be a tone manager. So basically, if you think of the Coen brothers movies, every single movie has a particular tone that they manage throughout the whole movie. And it's the same with product design. It's like a creative director on a product design is a tone manager. It's like, how do you imbue the product with a certain sense of attributes and tone and be consistent and bake that into the design. So the inspiration can come from anywhere. It's not really about other design or other kind of heroes that I'd have in design. My heroes would be probably from a very disparate, could be a politician to an artist to an engineer, could be anywhere, family member, doesn't matter really.
Nice. Okay. So which company would you like to design a product for?
My favorite brand in the world is Felco, who are they're a Swiss company that make garden pruners and all that sort of professional tools. So hopefully they're listening to this because I absolutely kill to work for them. And the reason why I love them so much is because the products they make are for life, and every single detail of their products can be replaced. So it's whether it's a spring or a blade or a handle or a screw, right down to every element. So when you buy in, yes, they're expensive. They're not cheap products to buy, but they're very high quality. And then when you buy in, you're bought in for life, and they'll come with you on that journey, and they'll keep it running top notch for you forever. I think that's sorely missing in the world right now. There's a few brands that do that still, but they're few and far between. And I think the world would be a better place if there was more brands like that. And so they don't need me to help them design. They've got it nailed. But I wish I'd kind of helped create a brand like Felco. I'd feel very satisfied.
Cormac, is there anyone that you think, I'd love to do something for those guys, or does it really matter?
Like what initially came to my mind is the brands that I love. They've, like Carl said, they've already got it nailed, and I wouldn't really have a huge ambition to work with them. I kind of admire them, and maybe to work with them, to learn from them. But I love the idea of kind of the challenger brands that are coming up that have a really great sense of purpose. And there are great brands out there doing amazing things. What Adidas started doing around the sustainability of their runners, and brands like Patagonia, real admirable brands that we want to work with. And there's always kind of the big names like Nike, but I would feel like we would only want to work with those kind of brands if we truly believe we're relevant to them. And I think only up until maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we would have felt we don't have anything super unique to provide these brands until we really started to developing our wearable tech lab and our capability, because that's something that I think that we're pioneering at the moment, working across healthcare, professional, and consumer categories in that space. And I think we can add huge value to those brands. But really what will drive it for me is just those challenger brands with purpose. I'd love to work with them to turn them into the next big brands.
Yeah. And probably as an industry, to me, the one that's going to go through the most radical shift over the next 10 years is the car industry. And it's obvious, but it's also painted itself into a corner from a design point of view. It's so market driven now. Every car is kind of the same. It's like just a tick box of features, and it depends whether you like a slightly more Germanic or slightly more, Japanese style to it, but it's the same for everything, and it's super boring. And the car industry didn't used to be super boring, but it is now. But the next wave of products are going to be driven by maybe not even the car industry. It'll be driven by technology. And I think, it would be wonderful to be part of that process and looking at it from what is the relationship between humans and this new autonomous experience has to be completely reinvented from the ground up, and hopefully in a more exciting way than where the car industry has got now, which is pretty dull, I think.
Yeah, if you look at the electric motorbikes that are coming out now, there's some that just look like an old-fashioned motorbike, but there's some that are just like a tube of steel. They've got two wheels. You get on it and you ride it, and that's as simple as the experience can be. and it means that there's no restrictions. It means that there's so much playfulness and so much like challenging different directions in the shape and the form of the bike.
Yeah, and there's an element of creative risk taking there that's exciting, right? You know, they're probing the boundaries of what it could be.
Yeah,
Where and the same thing needs to happen in the car industry, I think, is like really push that and say let's get a bit more creative with it again. Maybe like it was in the 70s or something, you know, a little bit more like you could have all these distinctive brands that were completely different from each other instead of just using the same ingredients to make more or less the same thing.
yeah.
If you need an example of that, I'd look at there's a company by the name of Arrival. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
They're
Did
both
some work with them. Yes, it's outrageous
Yeah.
what they're doing. So if you need a good example to inspire you, then I would suggest you take a couple of minutes to look at some of the work they're doing.
Yeah,
It's
agreed.
it's
And
pretty extraordinary.
Curtis, the CDO of Logitech, actually sent us one of his friends, Hugo. He designs for Untitled Motorcycles, and he sent us some examples of his recent work, and I definitely checked them out. Particularly the Zero bike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like very aggressive styling on that. And again, not trying to pretend to be a motorbike with an engine and trying to make it look as though it's sort of laid out in the same way. But yeah, there's some really exciting things. The cake bike is just a thing of beauty. And again, I think if you could transfer that type of bold vision back to cars, there's some exciting stuff that could definitely happen. That you're not going to picture just straight out there. And it isn't just a matter of how big is the radius on the haunch of the back of the car versus all the other slightly.
Yeah, you know, all these industries are kind of connected. I often think about, you know, the music industry and how, you know, everything's got a bit dull and kind of everybody's knows how to write a hit and how to kind of follow the thread. But then it sometimes takes like a 16-year-old working on their own in an attic, completely doing their own thing. And that changes the whole industry because they're so naive. They do something that's non-industry led, non-trend led, and they just go with their heart and it completely changes the industry. Well, to have that kind of free-spirited exploration of creativity is hard to do that in the corporate world or the industrial world, but it's sorely needed at times, you know, to take left field punts at things and just take a risk and explore without feeling kind of you're taking huge risks, you know, but you're probing what ifs.
Well, that's it. That's what we were talking about earlier about having that good insights phase. Like that de-risks the whole process. It's just like, what are your touch points? Where are the things that are exciting? And it's not like, what are the other competitor brands? It's what else does our human butt up against throughout a day, and what excites them.
Yeah, and don't kill the inspiration too early, you know. I mean, it's so fragile. Creativity is so fragile that when people put ideas on the table, it can just be destroyed in an instant if you're not willing to give people room to voice their opinion and, you know, let it run a little bit for a while.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the whole system as well, that we have to, you know, allow people space to go on flights of fancy a little bit and don't destroy it with kind of withering comments too early, you know.
Yeah.
Question 5, which is, what's your go-to industrial design program and why?
Maybe a slightly unusual one for me is After Effects. I taught myself animation when I was in college, and I continually go back to it as a tool for storytelling. It kind of ties into the idea of engaging the senses as well, but you know, moving images, light behavior, sound, how all of these kind of help bring something to life that bit greater. It's not. I wouldn't be my day-to-day tool, but just the idea of being able to bring something to life to tell a story, I think, is really important. But anyone who's talented at sketching storyboards and telling stories, it can be equally as powerful. But I would say that over tools, I would encourage people to develop their storytelling skills, and their skills at kind of crafting insights and point of views around insights.
Carl, you're more of a sculptor, aren't you? That's your kind of
Yeah,
passion.
it's just how I work. Like personally, as a designer, I'm more of a sculptor, and I like those kind of craft, hands-on not just, it's not really a traditionalist thing. It's an expertise, and I've kind of honed my craft over several years. And I kind of make models that almost look like they're CNC CAD type. I kind of can work to that level and enjoy that level. And I find it very immediate and satisfying to be able to just make something and it's in three-dimensional world immediately. And then I love all the technology though. Like we generally can scan those models and bring them into 3D and, play with them in Rhino or in Keyshot, cut them up, morph them. But in order to kind of create, I find that you just can't beat having a set of hand tools and a block of foam and then just go for it. And it's joyful experience. And I know there are plenty of designers who crave that experience too, actually, that it's kind of been removed from the education process a lot. It's in favor of more digital. I guess you can have more students in your course if you have smaller workshops and more computer stations and so on. But removing the human craft side of the experience to me is a negative. And whenever we've brought designers in who've been educated maybe in the last 10 years and brought them to the workshop and told them switch off your PC and all you have is this block of foam and a bandsaw and a file, I think they can find it a pretty joyful experience, that how much you can actually do with that simple thing. If you could get rid of all the computers in Design Partners and just leave me with a pack of files and a block of foam, and I could be perfectly happy designing.
Yeah, and actually the designer Ben King that you had on your podcast already, he's part of the Design Partners alumni, and he thinks through his hands. He was incredible how he would just appear with all of these extra crazy hacked prototypes, and it was amazing. And like Carl says, we really encourage that. Anytime we're trying to design something where human meets technology, the sooner you have it in your hand, the quicker you're experiencing it and prototyping it. And yeah, Ben was amazing at that, and he's undoubtedly going to be successful with his Koa brand.
Yeah, he sent me a message actually to say working for you guys. He came out of it with a desire to be a sculptor. So your kind of the methods that you were teaching has obviously worked well. So we're nearly there. Question 6: what do you dislike most about industrial design?
I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like I mentioned at the start of the podcast, everything we do is kind of working to deadlines, and that is kind of relentless. You can't escape that. And even the more senior you become in your career, the deadlines seem to get shorter, so you never seem to have the ability to just kind of sit down and relax for a couple of weeks. We'll cook this project for a couple of weeks, and so you're always working. You're always trying to optimize the team, get the best resources you can on it. But on the flip side of that, it makes you so fast and so efficient, and it pushes you to innovate quickly. And when we do work with in-house design team, we're continually reminded of how fast we actually work, because we're just constantly working to these deadlines. I mean, since lockdown, I think I've got my ability to make a cup of tea between Zoom calls down to about 15 seconds.
Nailed it. And the last one, which you kind of already touched upon earlier, but is what makes industrial design good?
Well, for me, it's I feel really, really lucky to work in a creative industry where somebody will ask your opinion as to, if we have this brief, what is your point of view on that? That's a privilege. And it's really privileged to work in a creative industry. And I feel that every day. I like to treat every project like it's the last one I'll do. So give it everything. And I feel really, really lucky to do it. I think that's the best thing about this industry, is that you're getting to create the new. You're getting to create something new, and you're getting to contribute to that, And that's the best thing about it. That I still remember the first day I saw a product I designed in a shop window, and I couldn't believe it. It was mind blowing to me that, I drew that, I made the model for that, and it's now a real thing that people can buy and use and get joy from every day. There's very few people in the world get that experience, I think, and we're really, really lucky to have it, I think.
There's a Japanese philosophy called Ikigai, Ikagai, and it's all about kind of finding your purpose, and everyone should look up the graph around it. But I think industrial design for me, or maybe it's not even industrial design, it's design with a capital D, is kind of right in the center of that for me. completely echo what Cathal says, how rewarding it is, but also the impact. Like, we have the potential to have impact on industry, on people's lives. Particularly, as we're going through this lockdown, you can see what design can do when people actually pull together and start collaborating. Design, engineering, business, all of these different disciplines, through a shared purpose, we can have real impact. And for me, that's why I get out of bed in the morning.
And very last question for me: what is there any particular project you're most proud of? And when you talk about that feeling of in the shop window, if you could pick one that you're most proud of that you're involved in, what would it be and why?
It's probably a couple of them for me. Actually, this morning we had one of our team shared an announcement about Red Dot Design Award and our collaboration with Logitech, kind of winning Red Dot Design Award. A number of them, and one of them was a gaming mouse that I worked on with the team probably about 6 years ago now, and it's continually kind of winning design awards, and it's best-selling gaming mouse in the world, and it's got all these kind of commercial accolades. But I remember the first day that it went live, the kind of the video trailer of it was launched, and the first comment by one of the gamers was, "I went online to watch porn, and that need is now gone."
Highlight of your career, that.
I think it's more, I don't know if it's a proud thing. I think there's certain projects where all the stars align and it's just a satisfying experience, and to me, the MX Vertical mouse that we worked on, that's, a very successful product now for Logitech, and it's been awarded well as well. It's been recognized as a significant piece of design work. But the most important thing was, right from the get-go on that project, that was working with in-house design team, between design partners and Logitech. But there was a real sense of purpose within the team and fun within the team, and we kind of set out to do something really good. And I don't think there was any friction through the whole process between the project management, the marketing team, both design teams, engineering team. It was just this kind of happy process, and the product at the end has this kind of zen calmness about it. So I think actually the product is a manifestation of the process. It looks happy. It looks kind of like an invitation to relax. And the project moved really fast. It was quite seamless and effortless between everybody. Decision making was really quick. There was no U-turns or barriers. Everybody was very, intense about what they were doing. But to me, that was one of the most satisfying design experiences I've ever had, and therefore probably my favorite project, really.
I think the truth of the answer is there's live projects that haven't launched yet that are really my favorite.
Yeah.
But,
Next one.
We'll come back to you next year and talk all about it.